Dara, and we apologize because Dara had signed up to speak at non-agenda testimony in December, and we didn't call on her. So Dara, you're up first, and then we have Cynthia Park, and Francine Maxwell, citizen, and Julie Dennis. Please come up.
Is this where I'm supposed to be?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, so I have also prepared a letter that I would like to...
Please state your name.
Oh, my name is Cynthia Park,
Yep.
and I'm from San Diego State University Pre-College Institute, and I'm just coming to meet with you today as a teacher and as a executive director of the Pre-College Institute, as a mother of a teacher and a grandmother of 3 charming children who are teenagers. So I'd like to alert you to the fact that San Diego State University pre-college programs and the Upward Bound program have had an ongoing, very productive relationship with San Diego Union High School, San Diego Unified for many, many years, since 1983. And we are now working with 4 high schools, and we would like to be able to give those high school students credits for programs of study that they took with us in the 2015 and the 2016 academic year. And right now, it seems that the decisions of the San Diego Unified are not to grant credit for reasons that, going back to 2015, for reasons that we are not considered to be an A through G granting entity. However, this decision is going to have grave impact on about 31 students in 4 schools, because the credits were credited on their high school transcripts in 2015, and students that are now graduating in 2016 have used those transcript documents to already apply for colleges. And so it's going to mean that those students, according to the district, are going to have to take those 2 courses, or 1 course if that's all they took, over again in this coming semester, and that's going to be a really hardship for them in terms of making all their other A through G requirements. So given our longstanding, very positive relationship that we have had with San Diego Unified, we would respectfully request that the district rethink how it is that we could work together to be able to so-called grandfather those students in, so they would be able to get those credits for these 2 summers, 2015, 2016, and then we could go forward from there in terms of renegotiating what we would have to do to get those credits for the following years. So I have put together a letter that more explicitly states what Upward Bound is all about.
Thank you. And my understanding is there's a meeting set up for tomorrow with district staff.
Pardon me?
My understanding is that there is a meeting set up for tomorrow with district staff to discuss this issue further and to figure this out. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So may I distribute the letter?
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, Dara Guerra? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Dara Drew, and I'm the Youth Services Coordinator for Access to Independence. Access to Independence is a nonprofit organization here in San Diego County that provides free services for people with disabilities. I work with young adults with disabilities, as they transition to adulthood, ages 14 to 24, and help them with anything to further their independence. I help them with services such as employment, peer support, driving, college transition, life skills, among others, social security benefits and medical benefits. And the reason I want to talk with you today is because I'm really looking to meet with different teachers and people in the community who can benefit from my services. I have some information here to distribute. And if you know anyone who could benefit from these services, please feel free to call me at any time. I'm here to serve you and your students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dara. Yeah. Citizen?
It's still very disconcerting that with superintendent at the helm now for 3 years, Lincoln High School continues to be at the bottom of the heap of our local schools in San Diego Unified. And we still don't have a permanent principal. Every program that has been tried is scrapped in a matter of months. $700,000 was poured into the middle college, money that could have been used for wonderful, wonderful things for the students, like robotics and lots of wonderful things that money could have been spent on. AAAE, a valuable organization that's been working to increase the achievement for our African American students. Where is it? It's been scrapped by the superintendent. There is no response to the people that are asking, what have you done with AAAE? Where is it? Why aren't we hearing anything? Years and years of work by the community and interested people just going down the drain. And Lincoln High School is still there at the bottom of the heap. What is going on with the superintendent that she cannot raise these children to the very top and say, this school needs our help more than any school, and has for far too long been placed at the bottom of everything? Everything. Nobody expected when this board illegally appointed Superintendent Martin that she was going to go down the same road that everybody else has done. Lincoln doesn't count, nobody cares, we can't get it together, and the kids continue to suffer. That's so sad. It's just like this movie I watched, Hidden People. That's what they are. There are children at Lincoln High School that could be the greatest leaders and the brightest minds, but they're never being given that opportunity because this school board scraps AAAE, scraps middle college, scraps everything. Can't get a program going. You need to address it starting today.
Julie, Caitlin, and Elizabeth Dennis.
Can I stand over here? Okay. They'll go after me. Hi, my name is Julie Dennis, and I am a mother of 3 children, 2 of them at Curie Elementary and in 4th grade and kindergarten, and I'm also a mother of a preschooler. I'm here because of the cuts that have been recently made at our school for the library hours. We were initially said to have 15 hours, then 0 hours, and then we were reinstated for 8 hours, which amounts to only 1 hour per week. 1 hour per month per class for all of our students. I know this isn't a new issue. The Voice of San Diego has covered this issue in 2014. Christy Ritter did an excellent piece talking about all of the problems with library funding across the district. So I was wondering, hey, has anything changed? Because we're having problems at Curie. What else is happening? I realized that I didn't give you guys all of these. Sorry, those are the charts that I'm going to be referencing in a second. On the first page, the chart that you'll see there, you can see where Curie falls, well below average as far as the rest of the school district. When I realized that, hey, what's happening here at Curie, I said, okay, let me do some legwork. So I called over 115 schools to find out what their school hours for their library is. And as you can see from this chart, just the first chart alone really shows an interesting picture. And it really did not, unfortunately, give me much hope for Curie. You can see up at the top, the most common number of hours is only 7. That means less than 1 hour per month per kid. So I asked myself, what's happening then? Is there something about demographics? Is there something on the map? And if you can turn to the map that I've highlighted with the various levels of various amounts of hours, And so I asked myself, what's happening up in Mira Mesa? What's happening at Doyle? What's happening over in Linda Vista? What's happening down south? And what I found after doing much research is what's happening is that they do not get extra funding from the district. They choose to use their PTOs, their foundations, or their Title I funding. We do not have that at Curie. We do not have a PTO, and we do not have Title I funding. Because we have neither of those, we are restricted completely. We can't even staff our library with volunteers, nor can we pay an extra employee because of the restrictions in the contracts. We would love to do that. We don't even have the money to do that, but if it came down to that, we would. Now, should we have to is the question that I ask you guys. Is it equitable, is it right, and is it fair that schools should have to pay extra to have a library? Study, dang, I still have like this much. Okay, here, come over here.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Dennis. I am in the 4th grade at Curie Elementary. First off, we all need a library, a place that's quiet and peaceful, where you can go with friends, check out similar books, talk about school, and go there to play board games. Sometimes we just need a quiet place to go at recess to protect you from the flying playground balls. But we don't just need a library, we need a librarian. Without a librarian, we wouldn't be able to find books that we want to read. Librarians also keep the books organized, and if they didn't, the books would be extra hard to find. If we don't start now, we might not even have a library in the future.
Thank you. Would Elizabeth like to?
Wait, her time didn't buzz, right? Since I'm her mom,
We don't
total
transfer
guardian,
time.
can we
We'll-
transfer of
listen to-
services?
We'll listen to Elizabeth, though. She's signed up.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth. I go to Curie Elementary. I'm in kindergarten.
Say something about the library at Curie.
I like the library.
You put the mic a little
because how
lower.
I like the library because how much books it has.
You want to tell them about how you would like to have a library?
Okay, thank you, Dennis family.
Thank you. There's more papers though.
Okay, Francine Maxwell, Lorraine Burley, and Frank Simbakakis.
Francine Maxwell, I like to reference back to the December 13th, 2016 consent agenda, item number 73. It was buried in the consent agenda, so I don't know how many people read it, but you're talking with the San Diego Police Department to put in 6 shot spotters in District E. They already have 4 that the San Diego Police Department has put in our community. December 16th, December 19th, and December 23rd, all of 2016, there were shots fired in City Heights, North Park, Mira Mesa, and Claremont. The shot spotter didn't collect that data. It's a third-party person that's collecting the data. They're using our forfeiture money. We could be using that for preventive maintenance of crimes. We could be helping crime victims with that forfeiture money. It's a waste of money. I would like to ask that the school board have a discussion open to the public on why it's important for the San Diego Police Department to militarize District E and bring in 6 shot spotters at our schools. It clearly states in your consent agenda number 73 in December that the conversation has already begun and that you would decide which 6 schools in District E would get the shot spotters later. There would be a public discussion. In the spirit of transparency, in our Vision 2020, quality school in every neighborhood, let's talk now. San Diego Police Department has already begun the conversation with San Diego Unified, so let's bring the public to the table and let's dialogue on why we would like to pick 6 schools in District E to go along with the 4 that are already in the 4th Council District, which is encompassing of District E, more shot spotters. I've pulled the data in New Orleans, Chicago. They do nothing to deter shots being fired. It's a third party that is collecting the data. We need to ask the question, why would we subject our schools to know in their safety plan that they have a shot spotter at their school? unless we're going to open it up to all San Diego Unified Schools, so that we don't say that in 2017 we are picking out and singling one school district. We care about all the kids at San Diego Unified, and we want to keep them all safe. So if San Diego is seeing more gunfire, then we need to share the wealth. We need to spread the shot spotters around San Diego and collect the data on all of San Diego. So I'm requesting that you decide what type of meeting, a town hall meeting, call it what you want. But we need to come as the public with San Diego Unified, with San Diego Police Department, and let's talk about this shot spotter. It's costing a lot of money. We could sure do a whole bunch of other things with that forfeiture money. Like I said, preventive crime, we could help crime victims. A lot of things are done with retaliation because crime victims don't get to get their feelings completely heard. They don't get restitution. Like I said, it's a lot of money. I'm sorry, let me help you. Okay. I'm Havana.
Yeah, here, you can stand there. This is for the board member. Maybe you want to stand over here so the screens can get it, and you can turn around. Okay, greetings, folks. My name is Lorraine Burley. I'm a voice of Scripps Ranch, San Diego taxpayers, and district stakeholders. We recently received documents through a Freedom of Information Act. One of the email messages was a disparaging joke about Scripps Ranch residents. If you read this poster, it says that it's from Mayor Kevin Faulconer. It says, "Dear Scripps Ranch residents, Monarch Development Corp. And the City of San Diego are proud to announce the completion of the Innovation Academy apartment tower at Scripps Ranch. The 163-story apartment tower is located at the corner of Scripps Poway Parkway and Spring Canyon Road. We did have to relocate the farmers market to the McDonald's parking lot, but I'm sure you won't mind. Your friend, Kevin." Now, we read this email as offensive and disconcerting. Scripps Ranch takes the situation involving the proposed school district joint occupancy apartment project very seriously. And this is a good time to bring up the fact that the district response to Public Record Act request has been appalling. Record requests made have taken 14 months to receive documents, and the records that we received were not complete and many were duplicated. San Diego taxpayers did not vote to use $20 million in Prop Z bond funds to tear down an existing school located in a neighborhood next to a community park just to relocate the school to an industrial park area. So the property is vacated, and now it can be used to build this Innovation Academy apartment tower. Everybody should want a Dubai tower built in their neighborhood, right? The district needs to go back and do over this redevelopment plan and on the Scripps Mesa property. And just in the spirit of Bob Dingman, because this is what Bob Dingman would do, he'd take out this proposal on here, he'd crumple it up and say this proposal is trash and it needs to go back and be redone. Kids and neighborhoods first. Thank you for your attention.
And is Frank Simbukakis here? Okay, we'll move on to our regular meeting. Thank you. Today's meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting that is conducted in public, and board members will not engage in a dialogue with members of the audience. The opportunities for members of the public to provide input to the board on non-agenda matters and items on the agenda is through the submittal of a timely public testimony request. The time periods for speakers on each item are set by the board as described in the board's bylaws and will be announced to the members of the public as each agenda item comes up for discussion by the board. Testimony on non-agenda items is limited to a maximum of 15 minutes per topic. Public testimony speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, and depending upon the total number of speaker requests received, the time may be reduced to 2 or 1 minute each. If an issue needs further attention, the board may refer the matter to the superintendent for review and investigation. Today, each non-agenda speaker will have up to, well, we already went through and we gave everybody 3 minutes. And why don't we actually call the meeting to order? All right. So this completes the non-agenda public testimony for this portion of the meeting. If we did not get to you in the first 30 minutes, we will also hear non-agenda public testimony at the end of the meeting. Okay, I would like to welcome everyone present today and those watching the broadcast and call the January 10th, 2017 regular meeting to order with all board members present. And can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll have the Navy JROTC Color Guard from Point Loma High School present the colors. If you wish to address the board on any of the agenda items today and your name is not on the speaker list presented on the blue paper located at both entrances to the auditorium, and if you have not already submitted a request for public testimony form, please complete the form and submit the form to Cheryl Ward, our board action officer. Speakers on agenda items will be called on to speak during the discussion of the agenda item. Once discussion begins on an item, no additional public speaker requests will be accepted. Public testimony is limited to a maximum of 20 minutes per consent and or action item, allowing for a maximum of 10 minutes per opposing viewpoint. Public testimony speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, and depending upon the total number of speaker requests received by the board, the time may be reduced to 2 or 1 minute each. The time limit for speakers on today's agenda will be announced at each item. Non-agenda testimony was heard at 5 p.m. and will also be heard at the end of the meeting. And now we will introduce our student presentation, and I think Dr. Evans, you will introduce the CPMA dancer.
Yes, today we have a presentation from CPMA, which is the Creative Performing and Media Arts Magnet, which is also located in the Madison cluster of schools. And we have the advanced dance students today, so please welcome Vice Principal Derek Morris, the dance teacher Sarah Dickman, and all of the students. And on cue, they will enter. Somebody will open the door. They will dance in. Do you want them to come up on the stage here?
We're going to have 2 performances real quick. So
Okay.
she's going to do a quick solo, and then the rest of us will join. So
Okay.
we're just going to sit on the floor if that's okay.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Dickman. I'm one of the dance teachers at CPMA Creative Performing Media Arts Magnet Middle School. This is my 14th year teaching at CPMA, and this is our current advanced class. We have 2 performances for you this evening. We currently have been working on some creative projects, and the students have been working on designing and creating their own choreography. Angelina Borja is going to be doing a solo for you, and she's going to come and talk into the microphone and tell us quickly about her solo that was from a source of inspiration that was personal to her. After we see that, we're going to have the other part of our class that's here today, perform another dance that, again, we created together as a class, and it actually, in the end, is quite impressive when you think they all started this dance by taking their finger and spelling their name in the air, and that was our inspiration for creating this dance. And I think if you saw it and then I told you that, you wouldn't believe it. So we're going to get started. Angelina, come on down.
Board members, why don't we, and students, why don't we go down below so we can see better?
Okay. Hello, my name is Angelina Borja, and my source of inspiration for my dance is my grandfather. So he recently was in the hospital, and not having his presence made me realize what a big impact in his life gave me, and I will be expressing that in my dance by showing my feelings during this time.
Take my whole life to all for I can't help falling in love with you.
We're just gonna hope they don't punch each other, but it'll go.
Heaven on earth, we need it now. I'm sick of all of this hanging around. Sick of sorrow, sick of the pain. Sick of hearing again and again that there's gonna be peace on earth They say that what you mark will surely overtake you, and you become a monster, so the monster will not break you. And it's already gone too far. You said that if you're going hard, you won't get hurt. Jesus, can you take the time to throw a drowning man a line? Peace on earth. Tell the ones who hear no sound, whose sons are living in the ground. Peace on earth. No, who's wise? No one cries like a mother cries for peace on earth. She never got to say goodbye, to see the color in his eyes. Now he's in the dirt. Peace on earth. Out over the radio, all the folks the rest of us won't get to know. Sean and Julia, Gareth, Ann and Breda, their lives are bigger than any big idea. Jesus, can you take the time to throw a drowning man a line? Peace on earth. To tell the ones who hear no sound, whose sons are living in the ground. Peace on earth. Jesus, in the song you wrote, the words are sticking in my throat. Peace on earth. Every Christmas time, but hope and history won't rhyme. So what's it worth? This peace on earth. Peace on earth. Peace on earth. Peace on earth.
Just want to say this is a great example of what's happening at one particular school. Last night we were discussing in the Madison Community of Schools about the mission of those schools, and one of the unique advantages of this particular cluster is at the middle school level there's a middle school that focuses on the arts and another that focuses on science, technology, engineering, and math. So the students are able to go through either one and come out in high school and continue on with what they're doing. So thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Evans, and thank you, CPMA. Okay, if we could get a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Beiser. And we have a second. And just, I'll assume that your motion includes both moving up the proclamation recognizing the Madison Warhawks football team to next on the agenda. And we also, item G3 on the North Park Property and Business Improvement District, we'd actually like to pull that item from the agenda tonight. And if the folks are here from the North Park BID, we're going to be reaching out to you to have a little bit of a conversation. So so the motion is to move up the Madison presentation and to pull G3 for tonight. All in favor? Please vote. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move to item B4, our proclamation recognizing the Madison High Warhawks football team. Dr. Evans.
Okay, well, once again, from the Madison Cluster, we have something very exciting tonight, and I'd like to ask the principal and the coach and the district athletic director and whoever else is here this evening to kind of come on forward to talk about the championship Madison Warhawks in CIF football. And one of the things you see right there, we have Principal Richard Nash, and we have the football coach, Rick Jackson. And I'd just like, rather than, I mean, I've read some great write-ups on it since I wasn't there when it happened, but if, Coach Jackson, if you could just give us a little recap of what happened in this very dramatic game.
Well, there was a few of them. You know, in the CIF championship, we fell behind 34-7 at half to a team that we had beat earlier in the year pretty handily. In the second half, we came back. We scored with 18 seconds left in the game to win that game 35-31. So that was a great game. And then in our next game, the regional state game, we were behind with 7 minutes left by 19 points. And our kids kept battling, kept fighting, and we found a way to come back, push the game to overtime by kicking a 46-yard field goal. David Lance, unbelievable, and then we ended up winning it in overtime. And then we went on down to Sacramento, or up to Sacramento, and beat a private school from San Jose, 21-17. So it was a great run for us.
All right, thank you very much. Principal Nash, you want to say anything?
Not much. It's an exciting run. Anybody who's involved in high school athletics really knows that these don't come along very often, and to have a coach who's been to the state championship 3 times successful too is pretty incredible. So I can't say enough about him and his coaching staff and the parents that supported him all the way. Thank you.
Okay, well, we have a proclamation honoring the Madison High School Warhawks football program, particularly for this CIF championship, but also for building character through the Warhawks football program, and Coach Jackson teaching his students that the wins will always come with hard work and dedication throughout the year, with the motto, never quit, never get up, applies both to students' athletic as well as academic success. And we've been talking about, you know, what happened in the CIF championship game on December 16th. Quarterback Terrell Carter threw for 195 yards and 1 touchdown, while running back Eric Buchanan rushed for 159 yards on 26 carries and scored 2 touchdowns, and the defense forced 2 punts in the fourth quarter to hold on to the lead, and so they won the state championship with a 21-17 victory. So we want to honor the team at this time, but at the same time we also want to honor all of the football teams in Sandy Unified, as well as all of the athletic programs for all of the different sports. We just saw a presentation on the arts, and our whole point is to really focus on the whole student in terms of character development, academic development, physical fitness, and so forth. So this is a great honor to present you with this proclamation. So I'd like a motion. Well, I guess we don't need a motion, but let's vote anyway. All in favor of this proclamation, please cast a vote.
We have no speakers on item B4.
Okay. Let's
Yes,
vote on
vote.
that. Okay. Thank you very much.
I'd like to especially give a shout out to Samson New, your inside linebacker going to Oregon. Go Ducks. She told me I need to step. You told me I need to step.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Shooting for this time.
All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice job.
What happened?
All right, now moving on to the next agenda item, we move on to item I, the superintendent consent agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the superintendent's consent agenda?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second, are you going to ask if there are any
Are there
items to be
any
pulled?
speakers, items to be pulled?
Yes, you have speakers on superintendent consent items I-20 and 21. So if you could remove those, please.
So, yeah, so I'm in the motion to
All right.
include those.
And seconded?
Second.
All right, please vote on the superintendent's consent agenda with the exception of item 20 and 21, which we'll take up at the end of the meeting.
Right.
Please vote.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Vice President Weiser. Yep, okay. Okay, let's have a report out from the, first of all, do we have any closed session reports from
We do not.
Council Donovan? No, thank you. And Superintendent Martin, do we have any administrative assignments to report out?
Yes, thank you, President Barrera. We have interim principal at Lincoln High School, Shirley Peterson, our director of government relations, Kai Jackson, and our interim strategic sourcing and contracts officer, Renee Alvarez.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'd like the ASB student representatives to the board to introduce themselves. Please tell us about yourself and what's going on at your school, both academically and socially. And we'll start with Joshua from SCPA.
Hello, my name is Joshua Isaiah Foster from the San Diego School of Creative and Performing Arts, and I'm here to represent my school as the ASB president. We just got done accepting the Rachel Challenge, which is a program that travels to different schools, creating a positive community by reflecting humility within ourselves, telling the inspirational story of a girl named Rachel Scott, who wanted to make an impact on the world, but her life was ended during the Columbine shooting, one of the children killed out of 13. This is a story that transformed the thinking of the majority of the students on our campus, connecting and bonding over the course of 2 days. This program will be continued through a club called Friends of Rachel, and we look forward to continue her legacy at our school. We're also are in the process of showcasing majors in an informal performance opportunity, meaning more required showcases within our program of study that will be beneficial to each individual at our school. 2 shows at our school have been casted as of today, the first being A Straight Play Summer and Smoke, and the second being Guys and Dolls, which I myself am a part of. Our senior class has also been working on their senior juries, which is a showcase within their art study. So coming up second semester is many concerts, shows, and exhibitions that will take place, evaluating each senior for the growth of their art major. As the ASB president, I feel that the diversity on our campus has made such an impact on our students, making them phenomenal scholars, citizen professionals, and artists. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for my report.
Good job. And Daniela from Sarah.
Hi, I'm Daniela Schoenfeld, and I go to Sarah High School. So recently we've had a lot of exciting changes at our school, one of them being we hired a new principal, Dr. Renfrey, and so she's very energetic and passionate, and she has a very fierce student-first mentality that I'm really excited about, as well as all the students on campus. In the way of academics, we are in the process of introducing a student lounge, which we plan on calling Home Free. And this is supposed to be a place where students can go after school to do their homework, as opposed to having to go home and do it, because a lot of people have difficult situations at home and it might not be conducive to getting their work done. So we want to create a nice environment at school where they can get their homework done, and then the idea is they can go home and be free, hence the name Home Free. Additionally, we are offering extra tutoring cram sessions in light of finals coming up. And then in the way of activities, we just recently had our Powder Puff football game. So all the girls played football. We had some guys cheerleading. That was a lot of fun. We put on an extra pep rally to introduce our principal, which really excited our school. It was a great way to kick off winter break. And we are looking forward to having another pep rally very soon, because we have winter formal coming up, which is going to be at the Birch Aquarium, so also another exciting thing for our students. And the Madison accepting their award reminded me that our field hockey team recently won the CIF Open Division. We actually were ranked 5th in the nation, so it was a very exciting year for us. And our basketball team, boys basketball team, is currently ranked 5th in the county, and they're undefeated, which no one saw coming. So lots of exciting things happening at Sarah.
Good. Thank you, Danielle. Okay, Superintendent Martin, information.
Thank you. Thank you, President Barrera. So tonight, thank you for honoring and recognizing the amazing student athletes, the state champions, Madison Warhawks. That was an unbelievable thing that we were able to witness. You know, my motto has always been work hard and dream big, and these students, these outstanding young men, absolutely embodied those values. Not only did they earn the 11-2 record during the year, but they came from behind 3 times in postseason, and big time behind. 17 seconds left in the game, and they still pulled it off. They played some of the best football our city has seen in years. This was their second CIF championship in 5 years, and they really, truly earned it. We're especially proud of the Warhawks and their coach, Rick Jackson, who you saw tonight. He was also named, he was humble tonight, nobody said anything, but he was named Chargers Coach of the Year, and that's a national recognition. There'll be some more information about that as it comes forward. Under our athletics director, Scott Giusti, we really have developed incredible programs for all of our students, and it's part of our commitment to help each and every one of our students develop as a whole individual. Of course, since we talked about football tonight, I'm glad you said something about Sarah, because it's not only about football. We're really proud of our amazing young women athletes. That includes the champion La Jolla women's tennis team and the Sarah High School field hockey team that you just mentioned. In fact, Sarah High School women are ranked number 5 in the entire country, and Megan Rogers from Sarah High was a CIF Player of the Year in field hockey. We believe in athletics because we want our students to grow up and be healthy individuals, and we're proud of the fact that so many of our students are going on, you big smile over here, so many of our students are going on to play college level athletics, and many of them have earned scholarships. But there's other ways we know to earn scholarships, and one of the things we always want to emphasize at this time of year as students are getting their college acceptance letters is our value, how much we value college education, and we have amazing counselors in our district that can support our students to make sure that each and every student is ready for college and career in the community after graduation and have access to ways to afford and pay for college. We want our families to understand that college is an option for everyone, and because of our great partnerships, we can help families with these partnerships cover costs of college. We want to thank San Diego Community College and the Promise Scholarship Program, because with that program, hundreds of our students can have their college costs covered next fall and their textbooks as well. UCSD has also set aside several scholarships for our students, just for San Diego Unified students in particular, so they can get an amazing education at that institution without even leaving their hometown. So it's an important deadline coming up for our Promise scholarships. That's February 10th for next school year. And if you want more information about the Promise scholarships with Community College, you can go to sandiegounified.org/promise for more information. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Superintendent. Dr. McQuarrie?
Nothing.
Dr. Evans?
You passed?
He did.
Wow. Shocked.
I could talk about my grandkids, but
Okay. I just, as the high school students were speaking, I just realized I have to answer an email I got from a middle school ASB president at Stanley, who was saying, what can we do to get together with all of the other middle school ASB presidents to form a council? So you might have some ideas about that. And obviously feel free to speak up in this meeting as we talk about things that you might have opinions about. And then the other thing I just want to remind everybody, since it's been almost a month, but it was after, I believe, after our last board meeting, that we had the celebration of light at Old Town, really to celebrate our diversity and welcomeness to all of the students in our district. And it's not just a one-time event, but it's an ongoing effort that we are making, and we're obviously going to face a lot of challenges in 2017 after we've heard so much polarizing and divisive comments on the national stage. We're also certainly ready on a national level to really have a big discussion about public education versus the move to privatize education. So there's a lot on our agenda for 2017.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. Trustee Weiser?
Thank you, President Barrera. I was thrilled to have the opportunity to visit several schools last week. On Tuesday, January 3rd, Bruce Bivens and I went and visited Tierra Santa Elementary School and Sarah High School. And just amazing things are happening there, including music, choir, and dance programs and orchestra programs. Many of the schools that I visited last week have No Place for Hate programs with partnership with the Anti-Defamation League, or ADL. Then on Wednesday, January 4th, I was able to visit some more schools in the Patrick Henry cluster, Foster Elementary School and Gage Elementary School with Area Superintendent Sophia Ferrere. The thing that I really liked was at Gage Elementary School, they have a relatively new program, Spanish Immersion, and then also they've developed in the English program STEAM coursework, and it's just amazing things happening in those schools. On Thursday, January 5th, I teamed up again with Mr. Bivens, and we went back to Tierra Santa in the Sarah cluster and visited Hancock and Miller Elementary School, which have almost 100% military student enrollment. And so a lot of those families are impacted. Later on that afternoon, I did a tour of the Ocean Discovery Institute, which is in City Heights, right next to Joyner Elementary School. And then on Saturday, January 7th, I was honored to be elected to a 2-year term representing the 79th Assembly District as a delegate to the California State Democratic Party to advocate for education and other progressive issues. Finally, Saturday evening on the 7th, I was joined by Trustee Whitehurst Payne, and we attended the Educate for the Future reception with several folks that are very involved in the Chavistas programs with other school board trustees from around the county to try to discuss and work together on how we can make sure that all of our schools are safe learning environments for all of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bowser. Dr. Whitehurst Payne.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I will not report on my visits to school sites, but I just want to touch on a couple of things. One is for those of you who are interested in becoming teachers and who attend schools where you're participating in working with students, etc., the San Diego Education Fund application is out on the web or in progress, so be looking for that application. And I'll be reporting back on that in future meetings so that we can get some applicants for that particular scholarship. But the other thing that I want to report on tonight is the impact that a current movie had on me, and it's called Hidden Figures. I don't know, I don't have any stock in the movie or any of that, so I'm not saying, whatever. But that particular movie made an impact on me because it cements the message that I passionately believe, which is that everyone matters and that we all can do something to help, and that we as a society will not move forward until everyone is counted, because the answer to a puzzle, the answer to something may be missing because the person who has the answer is being discriminated against or held back. So we've got to put that aside and look to bring everyone into the puzzle so that we can move society forward and move our nation forward as a country. So that's my message today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, and I just wanted to echo John and Sharon's comments and thank everybody who participated in our celebration of light. We had about 500 plus students, parents, educators, community partners who were there, and I think we had up to 40 partner organizations who participated and had information booths. And this is obviously an ongoing effort. The superintendent and the staff are working on their comprehensive strategy, which we'll hear about in the next couple of months. But I believe we've got our first joint information workshop with Alliance San Diego at Lincoln High School coming up. So just very much want to thank people who are working together. Probably more unity, I would say, than we've ever seen in this school district coming together to support and protect our students. January 12th at Lincoln. Thank you, Superintendent Warren. Okay, let's move on to item E1. This is a first reading, an informational item on our 2017-18 Title I eligibility ranking. And Superintendent.
Thank you, President Barrera. As you said, this is the first read of our eligibility ranking, and we're continuing with the same methodology of $15.5 million being allocated to the schools. What you see in this report, the 17-18 Title I ranking report, has two scenarios. The far right column, the scenario 1 is status quo, and which has the $5.50 decrement for each percentage change. That's how it's always been, and that's what scenario 1 outlines. Scenario 2 is the recommended change from the DAC that you heard presented by Susie Reed, the chair of the DAC, in a previous board meeting. That suggestion coming from the DAC's working group on the Title I allocation was suggested to change it to a $4.50 decrement for each percentage change, and she shared the rationale from the DAC at that point, and we wanted to show both scenarios in this particular document for the first read so you could see the impact and the work group that had been formed to meet and discuss those options. That's what they came up with as a recommendation. Since this is a first read, we wanted to make the information available, see if there's any comment or discussion about it, and staff will have a final recommendation at the second read. The status quo scenario does concentrate more dollars per student at the higher poverty schools, and the DAC recommendation, scenario 2, distributes more dollars to the lower poverty schools. The ranking reports also includes a few changes from prior years as we looked at the way that we identify schools, Provision 2 and non-Provision 2 schools. There are 14 schools that no longer qualify for Title I funding. They fall below the 40%, and we would recommend grandfathering those schools for the 17-18 school year. There are 9 elementary, 3 middle, and 2 high schools having to do with the ways that we need to change community eligibility and direct certification to identify schools that qualify for Title I. So with that, that's the first read of this. The ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, and the final allocation for Title I is still yet to be determined. So we're putting forward the budget at this point as we wait for further information if there will be a change. In the past, if there's been a change to the district allocation on Title I funding, we have stayed consistent with the amount that we allocate to the schools at $15.5 million, even years if we've gone up or down in the district's allocation. One of the changes that we'll be watching carefully in Sacramento is there's some flexibility now. The federal government allowing Sacramento to potentially keep more Title I funding at the state level. When we have time to advocate, we would advocate that they would not continue with the local control aspect of methodology that Sacramento has for LCFF. We hope that they would do that with the federal dollars as well. So we're waiting to see if there would be a cut from the state to our district when the final allocations come out. But this is the first read and the scenarios that have been put forward by staff and by DAC recommendation.
Thank you, Superintendent. We have one speaker, Amy Redding.
My name is Amy Redding. Let me be clear from the start. Any Title I monetary losses to school sites from implementing Scenario 2 should be backfilled with additional dollars, most likely from your LCFF funds. If you will not backfill the lost dollars to our neediest schools, I recommend Scenario 1. Your motion at the second reading must include these instructions to the district. I have been in the trenches with Title I money for 10 years now. I have sat on many SSCs. I have co-chaired the Title I Tiger team. I have chaired the District Advisory Council for 3 years, and currently I chair the Kearney Clusters of Schools, which consists of schools with lower poverty levels, as well as 4 schools that are Provision 2, where all the students qualify for free and reduced lunch, and with the high school at a 75% poverty level. I'm not here representing an official position from the cluster or from any organization. I'm just sharing with you my expert opinion on the matter. I would support the shift to Scenario 2 for one reason only: greater accountability for schools with lower levels of poverty. Title I money is the only remaining money with oversight and strings attached. The Accountability Department does a fantastic job holding sites accountable in the expenditure of their Title I money. If you will not guarantee a backfilling of the Title I funds to the high-poverty schools, then I strongly recommend Scenario 1. I have seen firsthand in my own cluster the difference in need between the high-poverty and the lower-poverty schools. A concentration of funds is needed at schools with high poverty levels. It also guarantees that the money that the district receives for students in poverty is actually spent on them. This is the letter of the law for Title I, and it is the spirit of the law for LCFF. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Any board comments or questions on this item?
I'll just make a couple of comments. I know we're not voting on it today, and this issue comes up every year, and in terms of the distribution of the funds, and I remember the very first year we were here, one thing that became clear was these funds are for school-wide programs. Sometimes people get confused about sort of the money following the child, like, you know, like in other types of funds, but it really is to focus on those schools which are severely impacted at a high poverty level. And we've, you know, through the years worked out a system in San Diego where there's a much higher concentration of these funds at the higher poverty schools and a decreasing concentration as the level of poverty goes down. So I think that is a reasonable thing to continue with, because when you're taking away, when you're adding on to one, you're actually taking away from another if we start redistributing again. I do think that the idea of the grandfathering the schools that have just fallen out of this category, which is a good thing, could be a good thing if that's true across San Diego, if there were a decreasing poverty level, although I doubt it. But in terms of stability, that at least schools would have a one-year notice that you have these funds, and now this is your wrap-up year, and you need to find some other ways to deal with those funds. So I just think we need to take that into consideration. I know it's complicated when the DAC makes recommendations, because the participation is spotty in terms of the high poverty schools versus the lower poverty schools, so it's hard to get sometimes to know exactly what is the best way. But I think if we just keep our focus on the fact that these are school-wide funds that are really to most help the schools that are most affected by poverty.
Trustee Beiser?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. What are some of the schools that are dropping out that you're suggesting should continue to receive Title I dollars?
I don't have the list of schools here. I just had the summary of it, but I can make that available to you.
Okay. So, for example, I think on the attachment, I just want to make sure that I'm reading it correctly. Does it say Correa Middle and Stanley Middle and Pershing Middle? Am I reading it correct? Is there anybody from staff that helped to identify these?
Right, you're just going below the line.
Yeah.
But we're wondering, were they above the line before or not? Because we can't necessarily tell from this, right?
Yeah.
We just know they're below now.
No, it has 15 and it has 16.
Yeah, it shows that they were 47%, 44%, 41%, and now they're 36, 36, and 34. I just wanted to get clarification.
That's how we provided the document.
You know, who are these schools and where are they? And then I kind of want to verbalize it also at the meeting so that people in the public and the community know where these schools are.
The document that you're looking at, Trustee Beiser, you just looked at and called out where we drew the line for 40% for middle schools, and then there's also the section for elementary schools as
okay,
well.
so Salk Elementary School, McKinley, Sandburg Elementary School, Dana, Hague, Hickman, Bernard, Loma Portal, PB, Doyle, Green.
Ms. Foster, did you want to?
Thank you.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. It's those schools below the line. If you look in the far right columns, in column N, O, P, or Q, you'll notice a couple of those schools that you referenced don't have a dollar amount there. Sandburg being one of them. They didn't receive Title I this year, so they're not eligible to be grandfathered next year.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
So, but you're right on any of the schools below the line that have a dollar amount there.
Okay. And then the high schools would be Point Loma High School and UC High School. Okay.
You are correct.
So my question is this standard practice in the past when schools have dropped below, or is it when they drop below, then the money just goes to those high poverty schools?
That has been our practice in the past years, that we would grandfather them in, somewhat like the President Barrera mentioned, to give them a year, or maybe it was Dr. Evans?
One of us.
One of you mentioned to give them a year
I think it was John
to
Evans,
adjust.
yeah.
Yes, so that has been our practice in the past, to
Okay.
grandfather them for the 1 year.
Let me just clarify before we go on, because we have staff actually speaking at Where Public Speaks. This is Debbie Foster, our budget director.
Right,
And usually
okay.
staff is up here, so I
Yeah.
wanted to clarify who you're having a conversation with.
Okay, yeah. No, I understand that. But she's been around a long time
She
doing
has
our
the
budget,
details,
so
yes.
she would know where the money has gone in the past or not. Okay, great.
Thank
And then, so how, do you have any idea of what's the total amount of money that will be going to schools below 40% poverty?
No, but I could figure that out real quick for you.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Because that's money that could be going to schools with higher concentrations of poverty. And it looks to me that like there's several schools that have dropped out of that 40% threshold, and I'm a little bit concerned that that might be a substantial quantity of dollars that could go and help kids in schools
So
with
that's
lots
good
of high levels of
information for
poverty.
us to bring back for the second read, the kind of discussion of what level of detail would we bring to the second read, some information like that.
Yeah.
I think it's really a conundrum here that schools do well, and we want them to do well. And then once they do well, they drop out of the funding source. And I've had several of them said that to me. We rely upon that support, that infrastructure, because one of the things I was curious about with this report was where are the dollars being spent? And primarily, it appears, and I was told this by several schools, the money goes into a resource teacher who pulls all the elements together, or into some kind of support staff. And once you pull that person away, then what happens to the program? You've done all this good work to ensure that children are now achieving, but the money is going away. And it's the age-old question of what do you do about that? And so I hear what you're saying about the monies could go to a school that's not achieving, but we also want to help that student to build in some retention factors there so that they don't fall back into the category of needing funds because students are not achieving.
Well, I don't think this is based upon student performance achieving levels. I think it's just based on what percentage of students there live in poverty.
Right.
It's that, but isn't it also included, Title I also not anymore?
No, it's not
No.
about achievement,
No,
it's just
not
about
anymore.
poverty.
Yeah.
Not anymore. My data.
Right, so that just varies with the enrollments and in terms of who choices in the school and so forth, as far as, the percentages going up and down between the 40%. I think the idea, the idea is really to get the money mostly, and it still is, to the highest poverty schools. The issue of the grandfathering just has to do, I think, with a soft landing. In terms of, I've seen schools in the 40% level who have, one specific program that's very beneficial that they're doing. It at least gives them another year to figure out how to either fund that or find some other way to do it in the meantime, rather than just cutting it off.
Right. That makes.
Do we have a correlation between the two, the test data, the support data, in terms of them?
That would be what one of the, what public comment, Ms. Redding was discussing about the accountability that comes with Title I and what kinds of metrics we want to have with it, and how and in the era of LCFF, it's beyond just Title I and how you spend your Title I money, and the accountability and the metrics with that, as we work first at the statewide level to have accountability metrics, multiple metrics, and build them into our LCAP plans and make those documents public as the new state accountability system comes in play. We're in a transition time.
And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, the accountability under Title I is really very detailed information about how the money is spent and where it is spent versus what the results are. Because the results at a school or even with a student have to be looked at holistically. What happened with the regular funds, the outside funds, the Title I funds, and this was the result that the school produced. I mean, you could, on any particular program, say we're going to do a math intervention, and therefore the math scores went up, but I do think the accountability at this point, is, as far as Ms. Redding is referring to, is mostly about the disbursement of funds. Under our LCAP, the idea is we have a huge level of accountability as far as, which is based on all of the funds and what's being produced at the school.
Dr. McQuarrie.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Where does the 40% come from? Is that something that we establish as a district? So we set that 40%. That could be higher or lower, but this is the one that we've been.
It's the minimum threshold that allows a district to, allocate funds.
Minimum
to
set
a
by the
school.
federal?
We could set that bar higher, and that's been subject
This
of
board has debated that and made
conversation.
that. That's a board decision on a yearly basis. Staff is making recommendation, and the current recommendation is
So
a status quo of
spread it
75%.
further.
Yeah.
So the
40%.
compromise that we've worked out through the years is that the way you can look at, on the per student basis, the highest elementary school is $405 and the lowest is around $80. So it's heavily weighted in favor of the high poverty schools, but there is a small element for the ones that are not as high poverty. So
And the other questions related to the count. This is based on a meal, the meal eligibility, and is that pretty much voluntary information that parents supply? And if not all parents provide the information, are they counted or not counted?
Yeah, the information that we collect, we're actually collecting information now through a process called direct certification, which is new. Direct certification is looking at students that are already identified in other systems to be receiving aid or to be receiving something. We can identify them there. That doesn't capture everybody. We can also use the alternate meal eligibility forms, which they turn in. We don't always collect those. And the categorical homeless, foster, and migrant eligibility to determine the percent of meal eligibility. So we're using every factor that we can to identify the students that would be eligible so we have an accurate percentage, which is we're in the process of changing our methodology to make sure we have accurate counts, and that hasn't been changed for many years.
Thanks.
What was the return rate of those, the alternate eligibility forms and things like that?
I know Debbie has that on the top of her head.
Yeah,
Debbie,
because if parents or students just don't turn in the form, but they are in poverty, then we can't count them as.
The question for you or for Gary maybe is the return rate on the eligibility.
Or maybe Gary knows too.
Yeah.
More district staff is coming to the public
So
comment, Mike.
we have the LCFF forms now that our schools who don't collect lunch applications are completing, and our schools have been doing a great job in that area. They're, for the most part, up in the 90% range. They're doing an amazing job collecting information. And for the lunch applications,
we collect free and reduced meal applications that you at schools that are not provision 2 or community eligibility. In other words, the school is not a free school, and we send out applications and retrieve applications at schools that are not currently eating for free. And we establish that in food services when they reach about an 85% free and reduced rate. And that's how we also receive our claim for funding as well. And it also establishes what the poverty and the economic situation is for the families at those schools. And when you look at these percentages of 40% and above, they're ranked basically on the most neediest schools at the top. And as you come down, there are less and less families are needy at those schools. That's why the percentages drop in direct certification. Does that help?
It's just, the reason why I brought it up is because in the past, as we've looked at our tracking metric, we've identified opportunities at some schools that haven't had a very good return rate percent from their students and parents, and then as a result, our overall poverty rate or percent has dropped. Not necessarily because we have less children in poverty, but because we just aren't getting the proper forms back from those parents. And so I just wanted I think we all know in the school district how important it is to have a very aggressive plan to partner. And I'm excited about new strategies and methodologies to collect data so that we have a more accurate assessment. And I think this is something that's been a challenge for large urban school districts up and down the state of California, that we feel that we are actually underreporting the rates of poverty, and then that costs our district and our children money and resources.
Absolutely. We want to utilize every opportunity we can to get those applications back. With also using direct certification, it identifies families who are on Medicare, homeless, migrant, runaway. Unfortunately, we have those situations in our country, but it captures those rates, and that's what we do in food services. And on top of that, we bring in more additional the single-family income application, which brings in an additional percentage to really bring out exactly what those schools' economic family situations are.
Thank you, Mr. Patel.
Thank you.
Great. Again, this was a first reading on this item. I want to thank Superintendent Martin and the staff.
Sure.
Can we get a motion on item F1?
So moved. Second.
Please vote. Okay, let's move to item G1, which is our District English Learner Advisory Committee semi-annual report. And I think we'll welcome up Lalia Alali, our DLAC chair.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening. My name is Lalia Alali. I am the DLAC chairperson. Before giving my official presentation tonight, I think it would be helpful to share with you some background information about my involvement with DLAC. I first began learning about English learner advisory committees when my daughter entered kindergarten in September of 2007 at Lindbergh Schweitzer Elementary. When my daughter told me she had been taken from class to be tested by a different teacher, I had a lot of questions. I immediately contacted the school. As it turned out, my daughter had been pulled out by the ELST to be tested with the CELT. The ELST invited me to meet with her in order to make sure all of my questions were answered. This meeting served as my introduction to California law and how it's designed to protect the rights of language minority children. During the meeting, the ELST provided information about the school's ELAC and encouraged me to attend the next ELAC meeting. I began attending ELAC meetings on a regular basis and become more and more involved over time. I ended up being elected to an official position on the committee and in time became the school's representative to the DLAC. As a DLAC rep, I received a lot of support from my daughter's ELST and the site principal. Through these discussions, I was able to more deeply understand California's English learner programs, and I began planning how best to share the relevant information with our site, ELAC, and SSC. I also volunteered my services to assist with the translation for Arabic-speaking parents who had not yet learned English. I began to see myself as an advocate for all second language families at my daughter's school and was encouraged to do so by my principal. My sense of commitment and advocacy for English learners continued when I was first elected to the DLAC board in June of 2013 as an ELAC liaison. At the time, my main responsibility was to assist the site in creating and maintaining the ELACs by giving encouraging presentation to prospective parents members. The training and support I received early as a DLAC officer, along with the ongoing support from my daughter's principal and ELST, helped increase my confidence. Last June, I ran for and now serve as the DLAC chairperson. As a parent elected by other parents to represent their interest at the district level, I consider it my responsibility to be involved in a variety of district-level events, meetings, and trainings, and to interact with other parents, teachers, and administrators, as well as English students themselves. Since I am now in my 4th year of service as a DLAC officer, it's not unusual for English learners, stakeholders to reach out to me to share items of interest or concern. Board of Education and Superintendents, I personally value this time of the year as I get to report directly, as you wish to hear honestly and directly from the parents. In other words, I feel it's my obligation to give you a report that expresses the thought and opinion of the stakeholder I represent, and that these reports should raise issues of concern that have been brought to my attention by parents and teachers of English learners. Before starting, I would like to sincerely acknowledge the dedicated effort of district teachers that hold the keys that unlock the language of academic success, the language of college and careers, and the language of power for all our students, for their continuous support, guidance, and time they put to help our English learners. Yeah. So DLAC appreciates some of the district efforts, such as resolution reaffirming values of peace, celebration of light, and the superintendent message to the staff after the election. DLAC also appreciates the district effort to increase the reclassification rates. As you can see, during 2015-2016, 4,026 English learners were reclassified as English fluent. However, the most important consideration for our district should not be only to the speed of reclassification, but whether reclassified students are well prepared, as we believe that a reclassification must ensure that students have attained the necessary English language skills to compete on an even playing field with their peers. In the past, along with the CELT criteria, teacher recommendations, the state required a certain standard to be met on the California State Standard, CST, of English language art before a student could be reclassified. When the CST went away during 2014-15, the state gave districts the flexibility to set their own criteria. For that, it's critical that English learners receive the academic support instruction in classroom subjects and the necessary English language development to prepare them to meet the legitimate verge for reclassification, and that they are reclassified as soon as possible when they reach the verge that has been assigned. While it's not advisable to let students continue as English learners when they are truly ready to be reclassified, neither is it sound practice to reclassify students who are not prepared to thrive without the English language development instruction and other English learner support. DLAC believes that the district must provide a balance between a focus on reclassification rates and a focus on truly preparing English learners for academic success. Board of Education and the Superintendent. After the shocking result of the presidential election, many of parents and children are terrified and dismayed by the outcome of the election. As a DLAC chairperson, I personally emailed you raising a big concern, as the English learners in our district are Hispanic, African American, Muslims, whose races, religions, nationalities have been the verbal target of the president-elect during his campaign trail. How will the district build a climate of safety for students and families? How will schools address the fears of immigrant students? Can we expand restorative justice and practices, of course? DLAC suggests 4 important areas of work. Number 1, take care of the wounded. Many students, especially immigrants, LGBT, Muslim, and African American, and others who are simply scared for their friends, are profoundly upset and worried by the election result. Does every school have a plan and the necessary resources to provide for the needs of the students who are experiencing trauma? Are the teachers ready? For instance, not far from San Diego, LA Unified School District has set up a hotline and opened extended support site to respond to a high level of student anxiety about the election, answer their questions and address their worries and provide the emotional support. In addition to a message that was sent in English and Spanish to all parents and guardians. Can we do the same? 2, double down on anti-bullying strategies. Encourage everyone in the school to be aware of bullying, harassment, and bias in all their forms and prepare them to act. Everyone can be an ally and an upstander. Encourage courage. Everyone in the school is expected to speak up when they see or hear something that denigrates any member of the school community. When students interrupt biased language, correct misinformation, they send to their peers a clear message: this kind of language doesn't fly here. And 4, be ready for a crisis. Every school needs to be prepared before an incident happens. If something happens, the school has guidance for managing the crisis and keeping students safe. Remind the teacher that resources are available online and for free. For example, teaching tolerance resources from the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's also the time to expand the resources available through our district, including listening circle, already promoted through our district as restorative practice, also known as classroom community building circles or restorative circles. Another free restorative resource available to staff is Compassion and Comprehension with the Common Core. Board of Education and Superintendent. A few days before winter break, I came across a 6-year-old girl by the name of Layla. She moved here last summer from a refugee camp with her family. They stayed in a hotel for a month, then moved to a one-bedroom apartment. Layla and her family were refugees who had no choice but to leave the country they loved and start a new life in a strange new country, not knowing what to expect. The most shocking feature in Layla's school life is the lack of integration and engagement in the classroom. During lunch and snack recess, Layla sits in an isolated corner to eat her cheese pita bread sandwich wrapped in a newspaper. Her lunchbox is a pita bread bag. After almost 3 months, a kind-hearted second-grade teacher who noticed that Layla brings the same lunch every day tried to help her, but the language barrier was a big obstacle. The teacher then held Layla by her hand and took her to the cafeteria. She introduced her to the salad bar. Layla smiled when she saw carrots, cucumber, and all sorts of vegetables. It was the first time Layla smiled in the school. When I met Layla, I asked her in her home language, "What's your wish for 2017, Layla?" She replied, "I want to speak English, carry a conversation, and express deliberately my feeling like all the other kids." I then said, "You will, Layla, because your wish, my wish, and the district wish is the same, and common goals often leads to great result." However, reflecting on Layla's story, many questions arise. Despite gaps in academic knowledge, and poor academic performance? Why, after 4 months, Layla was not able to integrate and engage in the classroom and chose to remain silent for much of the school day? Why was Layla not noticeable and visible by her teacher and friends? It's striking that Layla has remained unnoticed and her needs unaddressed in a time of strong accountability measures, intense examination of student achievement, and major school improvement initiative designed to meet the needs of all students. And aren't there other issues we need to consider aside from the language of instruction? Layla, like many refugees' children, have been exposed to a high level of trauma and violence. In a study done by Selkirk Syrian and Lawrence Syrian, where 311 Syrian refugees' children were surveyed, 79% of the children had experienced someone in their family dying. About 60% saw someone get kicked or physically hurt. Nearly half, about 45%, experienced post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. These experiences translated into depression and various health problems. Syrian and Roger Syrian concluded that mental health services are essential to ensuring that refugee children can break from the cycle of violence and trauma. Is the school district providing counseling for all the English learner refugees? In addition to mental health concern, refugee children in the U.S. often face significant academic and linguistic challenges. Disruption in education leads to gap in knowledge and skills due to missed school time. Concern number 1. English learner must learn English and master grade level academic content taught in English. Therefore, English learner students need additional layers of support and specialized programs designed specifically for them. 1, do all the English learners students receive dedicated and integrated ELD instruction? The Common Core state standards recognize that oral and academic language development is important for all students, including English learners. Teachers will weave more discussion and small group activities into the school day. For that, the only way for English learners to thrive under the new system is that students need language instruction in both a targeted way, which means the teacher separates students by reading levels, then support them in small groups, and an integrated way where teachers weave vocabulary builders into lessons throughout the day. Researchers found that when a separate ELD block was used, the students scored higher on a standardized measure of English oral language. The integrated ELD is another opportunity for the English learner to build an effective instructional practice to achieve the desired language and content objective. But if teachers don't do enough to help a student acquire a basic understanding of English, they will be left behind from the very beginning. Looking at California Assessment Student Performance and Progress for 2016-2017, that is available on California Department Education website, I have noticed that the English learner achievement for our district went down from year to year in both English language art and math for all grades, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, and 7 to 8, except for students in 7 to 8 who did just a little better in English language art and stayed about the same in math from one year to the next. DLAC believes that the school district must ensure that all the English learners in the district are receiving the daily ELD at their level of English acquisition, as well as the integrated ELD instruction. What about individualized support for English learners? There are students who have been in the San Diego Unified School District for 6 years or maybe more, and they are stalled in progressing toward English proficiency without having yet reached a verge of acceptable English skills and are struggling academically. They are the long-term English learners. Many long-term English learners develop a habit of non-encouragement, passivity, and invisibility in school. They further become discouraged and internalize a sense of failure that begins around 5th grade. By high school, they no longer see themselves as belonging in school, leading to a dropout rate estimated to be 4 times greater than the average. The question is, how does an English learner become long-term English learner? Many studies affirm that the quantity, quality, and consistency of programs and instructions English language learners receive from the very beginning can move them toward English proficiency and content mastery, or downgrade them to long-term status. DLAC strongly believes that the district must recognize that the needs of the long-term English learners are distant and cannot be addressed within a struggling reader model or a general English learner approach, but require an explicit long-term English learner approach. Specialized English language development course must be designed for long-term English learners, separate from other English learners, emphasizing on writing, academic vocabulary, active engagement, and oral language. The new ELST task. The ELST serve as an important layer of support for the English learner. In the past, they worked with mainstream teachers, helping them shape lessons so they were more accessible to English learner. They also worked directly with target English language English learners student to provide individualized and supplemental instructional support. ELSTs also administrate the yearly test English learners are required to take, which assess English skills and academic progress. It was also common for ELST to serve as a liaison between the school and parents who speak other language at home, and that was the case I shared earlier. The new coaching model adopted by the district aims to have every teacher throughout the district become a highly skilled teacher, focusing on the theory that good teaching is good for all students. Good teaching is certainly good for all students. However, extra layers of support are required to address the need of the English learners. I can give you an example. Under the old model, an ELST that I know worked at one school serving about 350 English learners. Now she supports 6 schools and about 1,100 English learners. She is also expected to work with teachers throughout the cluster by helping to plan lessons that are accessible to English learners. How would that be effective and productive? Board of Education and superintendents. On the ground level, many teachers are struggling to provide an explicit instruction and models to support the various groups of students within the classroom, including the English learners. And on our way to reach the ideal of an excellent teacher of English learners in every classroom, how many English learners will be left behind? Over the years, veteran ELSTs have developed deep layers of expertise to deal and serve directly the English learners in our district. And it's sad that this experience is put aside now. And they are asked to embrace a new task that requires them to interact only with adults instead of with adults and kids in the same time. DLAC also heard about the district financial situation. but we are confident that the Board of Education and Superintendent recognize the importance of the ELSTs and will not consider removing any more position in this difficult time. Concern number 2, English learners attending secondary school with a small English learner population are experiencing sink or swim situation. According to monitoring report posted to the district website dated December 22, 2016, a total of 16 district secondary schools, 5 district middle schools, 8 district high school, 2 district K-8 schools, and 1 district 6-12 schools have a small English learner population. English learner secondary students who are years below grade level in schools with a small population of English learners are assigned to intensive intervention of reading support classes that do not distinguish between English learners and native English speakers. These classes primarily focus on reading, not sufficiently incorporating the targeted oral language development needed by English learners and the long-term English learners. I am positive that all teachers are working hard. I have seen many teachers using their prep period to teach the struggling student. The problem is not the teacher. The problem is the classroom structure. Per the National Education Association reports, English learners who have been in any form of specialized instruction are more likely to score at grade level and less likely to drop out of high school than those who were in mainstream settings. There are, however, differences in outcome depending on the time of specialized instruction and program. The National Literacy Panel on Language, Minority Children and Youth found that instructional strategies effective with native English speakers do not have as positive a learning impact on language minority students, and that instruction in the key component of reading is necessary but not sufficient for teaching language minority students to read and write proficiently in English. In addition to that, teachers must get enough preparation, support, and strategies to address the need of all the English learners. They should be prepared to teach reading and writing skills and get enough training in language development because the focus should not be only academic content. DLAC strongly believes that our district must seize the sink and swim situation by recognizing that the need of English learners are distant and must be addressed separately by providing maximum integration without sacrificing access to English learner support, relevant curriculum, and strengthen relationship with the supportive adult along with the support to succeed, and inviting and insisting that English learners become active participants in their own education. DLAC believes that specialized English language development course designed based on the different needs of the English learners that emphasize on writing, academic vocabulary, active engagement, and oral language is essential. At the same time, they should be purposefully placed in challenging grade level classes, including honor classes with many English fluent peers, making sure that the number of the English learners is no more than 1/3 of the classroom. According to this,
Loli,
yes.
I just want to, we want to have time for the staff to give some responses.
Okay.
So if, and I know you've got some recommendations you want to get to, so if we could.
Okay.
Yep.
Should I finish?
Yeah, if you've got a few more
Okay,
points.
so I have just about the DLAC. Like we have noticed that according to the data listed, and you have, I think, in the presentation, that there has been a decrease in our number of ELACs as well as ELAC enrolled in SSC. And we believe that the main factor contributing to the decrease is the lack of English learner representation per site, parent outreach, and also the information should be provided to the language of the parents. The decrease also in the number of ELAC led to the decrease of parents' attendance in DLAC general meeting. There are some schools that could maintain their functioning ELAC, and we are compelled to study those schools to provide the insight and structure that can be replicated. We also request the superintendent and area superintendent to encourage site administration to support the creation and sustainability of the site ELAC. DLAC, along with OLA and ELACs, decided to create a need assessment tool for input and feedback on the ELST support model. This tool will serve to gather information from the stakeholder and how we can better serve them. The information can be used as a flashlight to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the model. San Diego's English learners are extremely diverse group in their ethnicity, language, background, socioeconomic, quality of prior schooling, and English language proficiency, who many of them have first language and literacy knowledge and skills that boost their acquisition of language and literacy in a second language. They ultimately bring a set of talent and cultural practices and perspective that enrich our schools and society. DLAC believes that the district must offer the right program and services to build on this vast reservoir of talent by providing additional time and instructional support by devoting the supplemental funding to support the English learners. Board of Education and Superintendent, as the DLAC chair and parent representative to all the English learners, I am inviting you to continue to be the dream maker of Layla and many other English learners' dream. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lalia, I wonder if you could submit a copy of your remarks, because you had several recommendations. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, we've got a few speakers, so I'm going to call you up, and we'll give each speaker 2 minutes each. Chris Larson, Lidong Huang, Gwen Oscard, I think it's Amal Mohammed, Gabriela Contreras, and Citizen.
And President Barrera,
Yes.
if I may, while they're coming up, I have staff that will be prepared
Great.
to respond. So if Sandra and Teresa want to come up now to listen to public comment, you can join me up here for staff response.
Great. Chris, if you want to. I think Chris signed up first, if you want to. Yeah.
Chris Larson, currently member of the PSRO and also of the SIFE committee, working with the district to try to work through some issues that have been raised on numerous occasions, I think, here. I think we can agree that we all want the best and high quality support for English learners. I think we can agree that newcomers need special support. And we probably all want some data to show that we are improving student achievement, especially for those students transitioning from any kind of a newcomer program into mainstream classes. I do have some questions, and have had questions about the transparency about these changes. I think the district still owes the public an explanation as to why the new arrival center model was removed and replaced by the International Center and mainstreaming the students. I don't know whether it was based on some new research. If so, we would love to see that. It could be a result of a misguided and uninformed push for graduation rates, accepting the fact that newcomer students have very different needs. Also, how are the current newcomers faring in the current program? The SIFE committee is using a newcomer toolkit from the U.S. Department of Education. This was suggested by the district, and the SIFE committee is using this. It's curious to me, having read through it, why we are using this as the working document, because it seems that most of the best practice reported in this report is what the new arrival centers were doing anyway. So I'm just really interested to know how this new program is working, why the changes were made. What I hear is that the students are failing. We maybe need to give it more time, but 2 minutes, not enough. I'm going to give you some notes from the toolkit that you might find of interest.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Le Dong Huang, and I was an English learner at Crawford. Right now, I am an English at UCSD. Believe it or not, a student who just came from this country 4 years ago with little bit English can go to UCSD. Yes, that happens. What is the reason? The reason is support. I am here because I'm worrying about the student, the high school English learner at Crawford right now, because there's so many things changed. Well, we understand everything subject to change. Like when I came to this country, Obama is the president, but the student who will be here next month, next year, Trump is the president. But the question is that changing in a good way or a bad way? When I was at Crawford, one ESL class, the new arrival center, one teacher taking care of 15 students. You might say 15 students is too easy, way too easy for the teacher to taking care of. If you think that, please think like if you are babysitter, ask, can you do a good job if you are taking care of 15 children at one time? Absolutely not. Right now, at Crawford, there's only one teacher at the new arrival center. Is that something called enough support? I don't know. If you agree, if you agree that teacher can do a good job, you are judging a parent. A teacher who did not do a good job because he or she was taking care of 15 students at one time, but honoring a teacher, a parent, is doing a good job because he or she is taking care of 40, 30, 35 students at one time. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gwen Osgard, and prior to this school year, for the past 8 years, I was a teacher in the New Arrival Center at Crawford High School. The New Arrival Center was a program that was a research-based program that had excellent results. I worked at Crawford 2 years before we opened the New Arrival Center, and in those 2 years, I taught ESL, and at that time we had a similar sink or swim model. The New Arrival Center opened as an answer to the problem that the students were having who were in their ESL classes, but then having difficulty in their mainstream classes, gathering Fs on their transcripts, and sometimes leaving or failing out of school. In our New Arrival Center, along with learning English, we also taught the students the basic fundamentals of math, U.S. history, and science so that they were ready for their high school classes. At this time, with the sink or swim model being reinstated after the New Arrival Centers have been dismantled, I am deeply concerned about the students and how they are faring at this time and how they will move forward. Our students had a high graduation rate, and many of my students are college students right now. 2 of them who are with me tonight, but they represent the many who are successful, working, and continuing their education. I hope that we can come to an excellent new solution to bring back to the children the education that they so need and deserve. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amal. I was a former student, new arrival. I graduated last year. It's hard to see the student failing, and when I heard about you guys cutting all the help they got it before I was the student, and I come this this country 2013 and I graduated 2016. It only take me to graduate like 3 years. The help I got from them, I didn't even know like how to speak English, and right now seeing all those students failing these classes is real hard. I hope you guys change your minds and I hope you guys think about it. What are you guys doing? Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Gabriela Contreras Mistruloglu, a DLAC member and ELAC rep at San Diego High School, and that's the hat I'm wearing tonight. So I would like to talk about one of the goals that the Grad Nation had in mind. I was a member of the steering committee, and we discussed a master plan back in the day. We didn't have this in place at the end of it, so it is my understanding now OLA is going to be taking over this topic. I know it's a paramount task, so I just want to let you know that it's very difficult to follow up and follow through on conversations and what's taking place at site levels when we do not have a master plan. It's very challenging. So one of the things that are in place is supports, or the model that we're using is the cluster support, having an ELST. I would like to see that model strengthened, and the reason why I say this is because each cluster have different demographics, so I think this is a good focus to incorporate in this master plan, perhaps using a cluster ELAC type of approach. And one of the examples that I can give you, we are trying to organize a community forum with facilitated by the Mexican Consulate, and that's the ELAC at San Diego High School in partnership with the PTSA, and we're trying to connect with all our ELACs in our cluster. So I try to get information from the district on a list, a very simple list of ELACs, representatives, and principals in my cluster. I was not, they told me they couldn't provide me for that. So I was thinking, well, how interesting that we have this model to service the students, and parents are not aware of this very key piece. So to finish up with that, that's my recommendation. Please focus on services at the cluster level. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. Okay, Superintendent Martin, you've got Sandra.
Yes, thank you. I have our Office of Language Acquisition staff that works with the DLAC and with Lalia on her report, and are prepared with some comments to make tonight based on the presentation that we've heard.
So thank you, Lalia, for your continued support and commitment to our English learners, and of course for your hard work in putting this presentation together. I will be addressing the concerns on the PowerPoint and what we have done this year, and we do have a presentation scheduled later on this month, so we're going to see some of this, but this is just a little bit of information up front. And then I will turn it over to Teresa so that she can address the next steps. So some of the things in terms of integrated and designated and our ELD courses. Earlier this year, the school year, OLA asked site principals to provide their designated ELD schedules, and all elementary schools provided a copy of that schedule, and those schedules are in our office. OLA also purchased designated ELD materials for approximately 30 schools. We purchased 3 different curricula to address the different needs of our English learner populations. So we have, for example, ELD Links, which is a curriculum that addresses, or that is for schools that have large numbers of beginning students, or also a small number of ELs, because we do have schools that have a small number of ELs. Language Power is a curriculum that's designed for a large number of long-term English learners or students that are at the intermediate level. And then we have Adelante Benchmark, which we purchased for approximately 10 of our dual language schools, and these materials are in Spanish, but the designated ELD component is completely aligned to what they're learning in the Spanish component, the materials. I have personally modeled designated ELD lessons in a 3rd grade class at Central Elementary. I did this before the break, and we have many of our OLA RTs and ELSTs who are modeling designated ELD lessons. In addition to that, OLA is collaborating with LAUSD to help strengthen the designated ELD lessons in both districts. We have had a couple of conference calls, and the goal is to visit each other's schools in the spring. We will also begin conversations with Chula Vista Elementary School District, and during the mini CABE conference that was held in Otay Ranch High School in the fall, I had the opportunity to meet the EL resource teacher from Sweetwater Union High School District, and we exchanged several online resources, including designated ELD resources, which were then passed on to our ELSTs. In addition to that, we are working with Dr. Flores, who is the writer of the book Connecting Content and Language for English Learners. Teachers have received designated and integrated ELD professional development, and they have received one-to-one coaching sessions as well. She is also working with our International Center coaches, ELD and math teachers, and some science teachers, and of course the goal is to extend that to more content area teachers so that they can continue to strengthen integrated ELD. As a matter of fact, Ms. Lalia, if you want to attend, tomorrow we have the next PD for our International Center teachers, and that's scheduled from 8:30 to 3:30 at Zamorano PD, and you're welcome to attend to see what we're doing there. Then our OLRTs are currently working on a Rely self-training module, which is an online professional development tool that will focus on integrated and designated ELD, and it will be available for teachers, principals, and our ELSTs by the end of the month. They also created a self-training module on the ELD standards, and that is currently available for our principals, teachers, and district personnel. As you know, our ELST's work is focused on strengthening Tier 1 instruction, and designated ELD and integrated are part of Tier 1 instruction. So in my opinion, improving Tier 1 instruction is not at the expense of our English learners, but in service of our English learners. To date, as Ms. Lalia mentioned, we have reclassified actually 4,120 students. That's 767 more students that were reclassified last year. And our reclassification improved from 11.2% in 14-15 to 14.4 in 15-16. And that includes students that are not eligible to reclassify, which are students in K through 2. In the past, those were not eligible. So in actuality, our reclassification rate for students in grades 3 to 12 is closer to 25%. This year, for the first time, we have tracked students in first and second grade, and the preliminary data indicates that 245 second graders have scored early advanced and advanced on the CELT for 2 consecutive years. This is all the work of, again, Tier 1, strengthening Tier 1 instruction. And then, let's see, in terms of our secondary schools, all middle schools and high school principals receive professional development on the ELA ELD framework and designated integrated ELD during the half-day middle and high school PD for principals. In addition to that, full staff PD is being planned by ELSTs, OLRTs, and school sites from Lincoln to Morse and La Jolla High School. The professional development and learning experiences are co-planned and aligned to the site focus, and this is done alongside the administration, lead teachers, ELSTs, and OLRTs. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Teresa, and she'll talk a little bit about her interaction with that particular school.
Hi, thank you for having us up here. First of all, I'd like to first acknowledge that what Ms. Lalia said is so important to us, and we take the concerns of our DLAC as well as any parent seriously. I'd like to also remind us that we are still in a point of transition, and I think that it's evident in this presentation that as we're building our partnerships and strengthening them, it seems like we have a little bit more work to do as far as trust. What I see in here and what was revealed tonight was that we need to strengthen our communication system as well as strengthen the way in which we come to the table together and really build a partnership, because with the information that Lalia is presenting is the first time we're hearing some of those stories and those concerns. And as partners, it would be very important to get into problem-solving mode. So I want Ms. Lalia to know that we are here open, and we take an inquiry stance. We take this information as data, so we reflected on data, and I did reach out to a particular school that was experiencing that needed support. They didn't really say, they said their perception was different from how the information was translated in the conversation. So we made an action plan, and I met with this person, with the EL coordinator. We came up with a plan. We're on the same page. We're going to work together to come up with a strategic, tailored plan for supports and services for that particular school, for those particular children. So in the future, I'd like for everyone to feel that we feel it is a bright future. We'd like to plan and do a better job at communicating with our stakeholders, sharing the information that Sandra shared tonight in a better way, that they know that we are providing supports and services. We have our doors open. We're willing to come to the table, solutions seek together, and also build our identity a little bit more cohesively.
And then just one last thing, we are also, Ms. Lawley, if you want to be part of the Grad Nation Steering Committee, that committee is also, that is also meeting tomorrow at Crawford at 4 p.m. So we have the International Center PD in the morning, and then we have the Grad Nation Steering Committee in the afternoon.
And as you mentioned, our next LCAP update report is a comprehensive report on the work that we've been doing with the metrics. LCAP updates always have the metrics that are attached, so that's a comprehensive report. Tonight was just meant to respond to what we heard about the concerns, and we'll incorporate other concerns as we do the report in the next LCAP update on English learners.
Dr. Weatherspoon?
I want us to talk a little bit, want you to reflect for us so we can get a picture of this. Last year and previous years, we had the NACs, and now we have the new process. Yes. For the individual students, how do you see things going? I mean, you're in classrooms, or somebody's in classrooms. Right.
We are.
Children.
So, yes, so basically what's happening, and I'm not really sure, I mean, like I said, I don't want to address certain things here, but so students are in an ELD class, which they always have been. The difference now is that if they are ready to move on to an IM class or an integrated math class, then they move on. But if they are not, then they can be in a SCIF class. And we have both scenarios. We have students who are in a SCIF math, and they're still learning the basic skills to be able to then move on to an integrated math course, and we have those that are in integrated math courses as well. And so we will have some of that data. I don't think it'll be at the end of this. I'm sorry for this presentation, because that's not on the board. But then when we do have maybe the March presentation, then we can certainly bring some of that data for you. But we have been, and as a matter of fact, we were just there with our executive director, Jim Solo. He went on a walkthrough. And just the kids are doing phenomenal things, quite frankly. So we invite any of you, and if any of you want to visit any of our international centers, we'd be glad to take you and show you what they're doing. Then we are planning a showcase at the end of the school year, so you will all be invited to that, so that you can come and see what it is that they are producing. And they can choose to highlight what they are doing in their math class or what they're doing in their ELD course. And I only mentioned those two classes because all of our international centers are on a 4x4. So they have an ELD class, a math class, a PE, and generally an elective course.
And I wasn't asking for hard quantitative data, but just, anecdotally. And I think you've provided some of that. Thank you.
And just point of clarification, Trustee Waters-Payne had mentioned NACs, and that's the new arrival centers, where refugees coming into to our school district used to go to a new arrival center, and now we have a different model. And I think that's what Trustee Waters-Payne was very curious about in response to some of the concerns that have been raised by the community and by parents and by teachers that were at the new arrival center, to get an understanding or some kind of report back to the school board. And you said that you'd be bringing that in March. Oh, an update on how are those children and the students doing now? What kind of supports are they receiving? Are they receiving the same kinds of counseling, support, language assistance that they were at the new arrival center? And then you had mentioned something about then now they're also able to have opportunities with integrated math. Were they not able to take integrated math at the new arrival center?
That is correct. Some of them could, and some of the schools, I believe that was the case, but not in all of the schools. So yeah, exactly. So most of them went into a math, an NAC math, but then now we have differentiated the support. If they have the skills to be able to be in an integrated math, which like I said, some schools did have that practice, but not all of them. So now this is across the board. Now all schools that have international centers can students that are ready for that can have an integrated math course.
And I think that's really important that you point that out specifically, because as a math teacher over the years, I've had refugees and new folks in my classroom that are just light years ahead of grade level. And so this perception that refugees are all poor people from refugee camps that haven't been to school their whole life is just not the case. Some of these children coming to our school district are years and years more accelerated than their grade level.
Yes. Okay. As a matter of fact, at Crawford, when they first had just one course, that course did become two, and certain students remained in the integrated math course, and then the other ones then moved on to the SIFE course, which is the math, the foundational skills math class.
All right.
But the other piece of it is not only the hard data, but the soft data, like how are they feeling? Are you surveying them? I mean, how are you putting that in the model or the presentation that you'll be bringing to us later?
We can, absolutely.
Sure. We had some numbers earlier, the 3,353 students in 2014-15 were reclassified, and then in last year it was 4,026. That's a 20% increase, and I'm wondering, did the numbers increase, or is the percentage relative to
percentage actually went up.
Yeah. From 11.
No, the percentage, correct. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, those were the.
Actually, it's 22% increase. Yeah, it went from 11.2% to 14.4%, which is a 22% increase.
Okay, those are the earlier numbers.
To answer your question, the numbers have not gone up. I think there's certain things that we're doing in terms of checks and balances. So for example, I think that the biggest indicator as to why we have more numbers is this particular report that we ran for the first time, and so we knew how many students should have been reclassified, and we reclassified all of those. So if we were missing forms, we actually had our ELSTs and different people go back to the schools and ask why are these students, why haven't we received certain forms. So in addition, of course, to everything else that we're doing in terms of strengthening Tier 1, what teachers are doing and all of that. So I think that was, so it's a little bit of both. It's the checks and balances. It's what are we doing in the classroom, and then what are we doing to ensure that every student that is eligible to reclassify is reclassifying. So for example, these new 245 students that might be eligible in second grade, these are students that in the past wouldn't have that opportunity to be reclassified in second grade, but they've shown that they have been, that they've scored early advanced and advanced for 2 consecutive years. So if we then can go back and ensure that all those 245 students are reclassified, then we're going to make sure that they are. So we're checking student by student, really.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, about the long term, so we want to see that percentage decrease, so we have fewer
That
numbers.
is correct. So in 3 years, and I believe that Superintendent Martin has mentioned this before, so in 3 years we have gone from like approximately 8,000 to just under 4,000, like 3,900, something like that. So every year we're averaging about 700 students, long-term English learners, that we are reclassifying.
And then a couple more questions. One has to do with the level. Do we see differences at elementary versus middle versus high school in terms of reclassifying students? I know we have higher numbers at the lower end.
I don't remember the exact data. We can add that to our notes and bring that in.
Is it easier, more difficult for a student arriving in a middle school? Or I know we had the students here speaking about their experience at high school, incredible stories about being in a program for 2 years and now at UCSD.
From just based on the data that we've seen, it's really about access. So if students that don't have access to obviously courses that they're going to need to be able to graduate, then that is going to hinder whether they're going to graduate or not. Bottom line, if you need 4 English classes and you have spent 3 years in ELD, obviously that's going to hinder you. So it's what Ms. Lalia was talking about, is the balance between, yes, providing foundational skills, but access to content and to basically grade level courses. So that's always the challenge, and certainly we're always looking at that. How can we strengthen that through integrated ELD, through checks and balances, through the work that we're doing with our area superintendents, just a lot of layers of support. So all of those layers of support do exist, and they're there. Do we always have room for improvement? Of course we do, and that's exactly what the work is every single day.
And the last question has to do with what's suggested here in terms of a cluster by cluster. Are the issues are different in various schools, various clusters, various areas, and are we adjusting for?
Yes, they are different, and that's exactly what we're thinking about, a little bit about that in terms even of professional development and how we're going to deliver professional development next year. We want to be able to really change what's happening in classrooms, basically. So we're thinking that we might be able to do more around that, around the cluster work and even cluster PD and maybe PLCs, in clusters. So we are looking into that. So that definitely fits right into what we're thinking for next year.
Thank you.
Yeah. There was mentioned by Alali about the reclassifying, but also making sure that they're prepared to succeed academically. And we deal with this all the time in terms of different standardized tests. It was really a measure of them being prepared. So my thinking would be that when you're doing a reclassification with testing and other material, that it's based on the idea that they are really prepared academically to succeed, that they just haven't been lucky about getting a certain score on a test that kind of moved them into the reclassification zone, but that that reclassification actually really means something. Not just, like you say about we graduated this many or we classified this many, so is it just the test or is there other factors now?
No, it is. So in addition to the CELT, it's an ELA assessment. Mm-hmm. It's a teacher recommendation, and then of course parent consultation. So there's other criteria that they have to meet in order for them to be reclassified. And just in many of our data, our reclassified students are doing just as well, if not sometimes better than our English-only students. So once they reclassify, they do really well. Yeah. So again, it goes back to that access and being able to access the grade level content and being challenged. And like you said, I mean, some of the students are, come with a lot of skills from their countries.
And
I was actually
after they're reclassified, we're monitoring them for 2 years to ensure that they are maintaining their level of expertise, and if they need additional supports, they will be provided.
And on a side note, I was reading an article that came out this week about English language learners on state standardized tests and English language arts, because every time we've been here I've complained that we have these different subgroups, whether it's African American or lower socioeconomic, and one of the groups is English language learners, and it's always turns out that English language learners are not as proficient on the English language arts test, which sounds very redundant to me. And so the state was looking at better ways to measure this in terms of who came into the system as an English language learner and where are they now. Because just as you said, we've seen these statistics here where if you have the category of reclassified students, that they actually performed higher than the general population. But in the old system, particularly with No Child Left Behind, if a student was reclassified, they moved out of there, and therefore the English language arts scores went down even further.
Right, and from what I understand, the state is attempting to change that, and they want to include the RFEPs with the English learner data, but we don't know whether that's going to be the case, so, yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like they're pushing for that.
Isn't that one advantage of having the new model that you have, where you're not, once the children get through, or young adults, get through the NAC, they kind of dropped out and that was it, but now you're offering support beyond that point. So it's hopefully an advantage to have this new model rather than just the NAC, finish those 15 students, you get the service, and then you're dropped. And now, hopefully, it's built in so that you circle back around if they need some additional support, they can continue to get some support. So,
Yeah, I actually wanted to, and I appreciate that, Dr. Whitehurst Payne. I actually, Chris Larson brought up an important question, which is why have we made the shift in approach, and speaking specifically around the new arrival centers and the international centers, and I wonder if we could just ask Superintendent Martin and, with support from Sandra.
In large, broad terms, it's simple to talk about access, support, and meaningful graduation. That what we're looking for is our students to be able to have access to what they need in terms of a broad curriculum, we have graduation requirements, graduation standards, and how do we give students access to a broad and challenging curriculum, and then put support in place so that they can have a meaningful graduation. It wasn't just about A through G, it was about making sure students have access to something beyond what they were getting in a new arrival center, and that they can be successful. So we knew that we needed to shift that model, and mostly it had to do with receiving greater access. They didn't have access to the core in the past, and we want them to have access to the core. Mm-hmm. We know that they need support for them to be successful.
Mm-hmm. And I guess this is part of what we're going to talk about in March, but what are the main things that we're looking at right now in terms of how the students are doing? How are we evaluating whether the shift is working?
And that is a report that we want to bring back in March, a full report. We actually want to bring students that can give testimony about what their experience has been like, looking at access in their coursework, how are they able to be successful. We'll look at grades, we'll look at completion of assignments, we'll look at their college acceptance, and all of the things are the same standards and requirements that we have for everybody. We won't change the metrics because they have different expectations. It's not different expectations, same expectations and same metrics.
Thank you. Terrific report, and Lalia, thank you very much. Very comprehensive presentation. Okay.
Just real quick before we go on, I just want to thank Lalia for your work as the DLAC chair, and also wanted to just thank you for also talking about how there's real challenges with a lot of parents and folks involved on the DLAC committee with regard to the bullying that's going on with students from language minority groups. And that I look forward to. I believe we're going to have a future board update on bullying in our school district and how things are going with the bullying reporting hotline and things like that. And I think we might be looking at that for February 28th because I know we're getting an update on our one of our goals with regard to culture and climate at schools. And I think bullying ties directly into the culture and climate of our schools. And so I look forward to a future school board meeting soon where we can get an update on bullying and our response to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I wonder if we could just get a motion on item G2, which is the renewal of the Einstein Academy Charter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Is this a speaker on this? No. No speakers on this item. Please vote.
Yeah, we've had lots of information.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Congratulations, Einstein. Still here.
A long wait for 5-second vote.
Okay, that's right. And to item H1, the phase out of 8 optional attendance areas and grade reconfiguration. So, Superintendent.
Thank you, President Barrera. This item is about how it goes back to a presentation by Dr. Julie Martell about our dream big ideas and our concepts moving forward for strong neighborhood schools and enrollment. And so as part of creating the clear articulation patterns within the cluster to support the neighborhood enrollment, and district staff presented this item back in April 2015 about the optional areas. So this item coming forward is starting to take action on that. correct. There's small geographic areas that are assigned more than one neighborhood, elementary, middle, or high school. So in 2012-13, there were 25 such areas. Today, there's 19, and this report is recommending that we phase out 8 more of the optional areas. In each case, one option is being chosen overwhelmingly over another, and the proposal would phase out the lesser chosen option. Often, it's just 5 or 10 students that are affected, so it's cleaning those up. Just so you know, if you take action on this, as recommended, no student's going to have to change schools. The current residents will continue to attend the schools that they've chosen, as can their concurrently enrolled siblings, if any siblings would be affected. And future residents can still attend the eliminated option by submitting a choice application if they want to do that, even though we eliminate the option. We have Roy McPhail here to answer further questions. It does also recommend the reconfiguration of the last 2 K-6 elementary schools to K-5. We've been discussing Emerson Bandini will transition from a K-6 to a K-5 in 17-18, and Webster in February of in 18-19.
Okay, can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. And do we have any speakers on this item? If not, please vote. Okay, and we had no items pulled from the consent agenda? So we have
The 20 and 21.
Oh, 20 and 21. Okay.
Thank you, President Barrera.
Yes.
But I don't think Citizen is here.
Okay.
Oh, she was one that pulled both of them?
Did somebody?
I'll move item 20
And 21.
and 21.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Okay, and do we have any non-agenda public speakers?
Vote.
Yes.
Okay.
There's the vote.
Hey, Lindsay Birmingham.
Lindsay Birmingham, SDEA President. Came to the meeting tonight with no intention of speaking. I thought Mrs. Ali, who gave a presentation, read her presentation. She did a wonderful job. But after the comments up here, I felt the need that it was important to talk about what really happened in the past in the NAC because there was some misleading information. The NACs in the past, students didn't leave those NACs and were forgotten. The students, the teachers that were committed to those students checked in with them on a regular basis and continued to provide them the support once they exited the NACs. The NAC wasn't just a place where they learned foundational skills. They learned social skills. They had clubs. They had opportunities to interact with their peers. They weren't isolated and segregated. They were heavily supported, heavily loved, and heavily appreciated for what they brought to the school community. There are serious concerns, and our teachers, parents, and students wouldn't have given up 2 hours of their night to come here if there weren't concerns about the level of support that students are receiving and the jobs that are being expected from the individuals that are supporting these students. One of the students spoke about it. In the NAC, they had a 15-to-1 ratio acknowledging the intense support and need that those students needed. Many of those students are now in class sizes of 36-to-1 and have a support teacher that's supporting multiple classrooms. Can't be in there all the time to make a 15-to-1 ratio like there was before and cannot provide the individual support. SDEA, with many of our members last year, raised these concerns, not as a teachers union, not as a contractual concern, but as a concern for the well-being of these students and the success of these students. Our concern is that checking a box on a piece of paper saying that students have access is being given more importance than actual success and appropriate support. So we have a meeting coming up soon where we'll be discussing some of these concerns with the district, but I really wish that some of these concerns would have been listened to last year prior to the implementation of this new program, because I think there are going to need to be some steps back and re-looking and rethinking what the district's currently doing to support some of our most neediest students. Thank you.
And Gabriella?
This is just, I just wanted to mention something to the board in regards of also serving the parents of the ELLs. I came across the following situation. I was supporting a parent at the school site level addressing a very serious issue between teacher, student, and administration. Both of these parties were involved. My concern was the interpretation experience that we had, and I want you to become aware of this. As we are having and holding our meeting, one of the staff people, a bilingual personnel, was translating on behalf of the school. I was interpreting on behalf of the parent. When the parent mentioned in Spanish the word, it was my duty to come to school, I felt like it was my duty to come to school and speak to the teacher. The interpretation, when it was made, it was stated as, I felt like it was my right to come to the school. So I just want you to become aware of the fact that when you have a contentious issue and there's, well, oh, by the way, I clarified that because the conversation was tense. So I think that differentiating between these two terms set a different tone. So I just want you to become aware of the fact that we need to be really careful with the interpreters' roles, and also how we're servicing the Spanish-speaking community, where the interpretation that they're getting, that they're being serviced, could be misused and could change the whole context and scenario. So I just wanted to mention that to you. That's you know, I deal with many Spanish-speaking parents, and so interpretation could basically serve well or disservice our parents. So perhaps also more PD for our interpreter force, and also for the staff people that well-intentioned want to help out, but perhaps they could make a big mistake on this, impromptu role. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, we are adjourned.